So this is day number 8 of the daily live challenge, and um, as you can probably see, I'm still in the hotel, on the road. Just spoke yesterday in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Never been to Minneapolis before, but it was awesome being here. After speaking, got a chance to go over to the Mall of America to see the largest shopping mall, and really, what I really wanted to do was get some steps in. So got to walk around, make several laps around the mall. I will say, if you are looking to get your steps in, the Mall of America is a place where you can get your steps in. I think I saw every store. I walked past every store in the mall, and it was great. Now, what I want to talk about today is a lot of people have been messaging me because they saw the post that I did where I posted what our speaking agenda was for the year. And a lot of speaking events, more than 20 speaking events this year. So the 2024 tour has been going great. The theme for the 2024 tour has been 24 in 24. So the goal was to try to get to 24 speaking engagements in 20 by the end of 2024. I think we are going to get there. And a lot of people have been asking, like, how did you start speaking so much? And also, people start asking, like, when do you sleep? Because you run an accounting firm that does bookkeeping, CFO work, and data analytics for law firms. You're doing multiple podcasts. Like, we just relaunched the podcast that we're hosting within the American Bar Association. You have your own podcast, the Law Firm and Finance podcast. You also have the Golden Age of Business podcast, and you also show up on other people's podcasts as guests. Outside of that, you also launch a accounting course training people who don't have an accounting background on how to get into the field and get a entry level accounting job. So it's like you've also done that. And I mean, you got a personal life, got all this stuff going on. So when do you sleep? And I know that a lot of people may talk about the whole mindset of just the hustle culture of just go, 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 go. And to be honest with you, I can't necessarily say that I'm a fan of the idea of hustle culture. I'm also not a fan of the not really working very hard to pursue the things that you want, because the way that I think about it is if I really want something, then I am going to have a drive to want to continue working at it. Like, making progress on that thing becomes, for me, it becomes very relaxing. And it also becomes a good thing because when I'm not making progress on it, I know that I feel like I'm just standing still. And so I'm one that leans much, much more to working really, really hard and keep going and going. And I understand for myself, I'm not that great at slowing down and stopping. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. What I have realized over the years is there is nothing wrong with me wanting to constantly keep working and driving towards my goals. Now, what I had to do once I learned and realized that about myself is I had to start becoming more open to the people that were in my life who could tell me when I needed to pump the brakes. Now, for me personally, the number one person who can tell me to pump the brakes is my wife. And her and I have had conversations over the years. And what I understand is that, hey, I am driven to just work towards my goals and towards my objectives. Now, having the conversation with her, I explained to her what goals are important. We talk through what those goals are. We also talk through, like, what really drives me, what really motivates me for those goals. And her and I have a very healthy conversation about, okay, all right, which ones do are you okay with me really focusing on and driving towards? Because she knows that I'm not going to do anything half speed. She knows that I'm going to really push towards those goals. And what we'll do is, not all of the goals that I put down are ones that stay on the list. Some of them we say, all right, we just don't have a capacity for you to go after that goal, and I'm okay with taking that one off the list. And then as I'm working on it, one of the things that I also did is giving her the permission to say, like, hey, you know me very well, you know what these goals mean to me, you know what goals we agreed on, what goals are on the list, you know what these goals mean to me, like how passionate I am about this or that or this. And you have the authority to be able to step in and say, hey, when you see that I need to slow down, it's okay for you to bring it up and say, hey, babe, I think you should slow down. I think you need to take a rest. I think you need to take a break. And we'll have the conversation about it. And I would say 90% of the time or 95% of the time when she says that to me, I'm like, you know what? You're right. I do need to slow down. And then we kind of throttle it back because one of the things that I realized is trying to figure that out myself, where I was the one trying to figure out how to work hard and how to rest at the same time. I was like, I can't do both. And what I've realized in talking to so many people, most people are not good at doing both. Most people are not good at really working hard and knowing when to slow down. And so what I realized is that, this old saying in the book of Proverbs, which is a book in the Bible that I probably spent a ton of time as a teenager reading it over and over and over because I was probably a dumb teenager like most people. And someone had told me, like, hey, the book of Proverbs is a great one for wisdom, help you avoid some future mistakes in your life. And so I decided to continue reading the book, and I read it over and over again, like for probably several years. I didn't read any other book other than the book of Proverbs. And I would get to the end, and I would go back to the beginning, and I would read it again. And I would get to the end, go back to the beginning, and read it again because I knew that, hey, if I wanted to avoid making some mistakes in life, might as well learn some wisdom. And it really paid off. And one of the things that it says in there is that how there is safety in a multitude of counsel, meaning that at some point when you're driving for a goal in any aspect of life, is being able to invite people that you trust, people that know your passion, people that know your interests, people that know what motivates you, people that know what drives you, people that know what's important to you, allowing those people to be able to give you honest feedback about different areas of your life. And for me, that's become like looking at my wife, and my wife being able to tell me, like, hey, I think you're working too hard. Also, my parents know what my passion, what my drive is. They know what my capabilities are, but them being able to step in and say, hey, I think you need to pull it back a little bit. My childhood best friend, I mean, she can step in and she can say, hey, I'm noticing this, and I think you probably need to think about these things. And what I will say is continually, those people tend to help me see things that I may have blind spots to. And I realize it is not a bad thing for me to have blind spots. But if I do have blind spots, I need to invite people that I trust, people that understand me, people that understand what I'm working towards. I need to invite them in to help shine a light on those areas of my blind spots. So for me, I do know that I could work, 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 and not stop. So I invite people that I trust, know, and that understand me into my life to speak, and give me honest feedback in those areas. And like I said, I'm not saying that, hey, whenever they say it 100% of the time, I'm going to stop. Like I said, 95% of the time, when those people say something to me like that, it's usually, it becomes obvious to me, like, hey, Terrell, you need to stop and listen. And so something that I advise a lot of people is when you're working towards any goal in your life, you have to figure out where you are on the spectrum. Are you the type of person who doesn't like to work as hard? Or are you the type of person who you're probably going to overwork yourself? Depending on where you are and most people are somewhere in the middle in that spectrum. Depending on where you are, like if you know that you're a procrastinator, you're not one that really likes to work, you need to bring people into your life that are going to hold you accountable. If you know you're in danger of overworking, you need to bring people in your life that can kind of, hey, help you pump the brakes a little bit when you need to. Now, I will say is you can't do this with everybody because not everybody is going to invest the time or the energy to understand what your drive is. For example, I don't just listen to that advice from everybody. Like people who don't know my motive for why I'm working towards certain goals, or people who aren't working towards goals in their own life, when they tell me to slow down, I'll be honest with you, I don't really pay it as much attention because I'm like, They don't know what I'm working towards. They're not, they don't understand why I'm driving so hard. And they're not working towards any goals in their life. And sometimes what you will find is people will give you advice about what you should do in your life, not because it's the best advice for you in your life, but sometimes it's because your drive, your ambition makes them feel self conscious about their own life. So they want you to slow down so they don't feel bad about where they are or what they're doing in their own life. And I don't fault people for that. I think it's a human nature thing. It's just like, when we see someone doing something that we're not and we know that we're probably capable of doing it ourselves, sometimes it does make us feel a little insecure, and sometimes we tend to try to give other people advice in an area of our own insecurity. Like, I used to do it myself, and I had to learn how to, like, you know what? If there's an area of my life where I am a little insecure or I'm not as confident on, I tend to not give other people advice in that area. Because what I know is if I'm not confident in that area, my advice is probably not going to be the most beneficial for that person. My advice might actually end up being more kind of self gratifying than it is focused on being helpful to the person that I'm giving advice to. So, when you do invite people into your life that can really speak and help you understand, do you need to work a little bit harder? Because if you're used to procrastinating, you need people that can hold you accountable and people that are going to push you. If you're on the other spectrum, probably similar to me, where you will probably work and go nonstop, you probably need people who can help you pump the brakes and people that can point things out to you and tell you and give you that heads up like, hey, I think you need to slow down a little bit. Like, take a little breather, take a little break. You can get back to it. Because what I do know is I'm the type of person that will work really, really hard. And when it comes down to speaking engagements, like in the past, week, we I was at a conference in Greensboro, North Carolina. We relaunched the podcast within the ABA. We did some recording there. Also spoke at an event. Right after speaking, headed over to the airport, hopped on a plane, flew to Minneapolis, Minnesota, landed about 1 a.m., got some sleep, was right back up, did a 90-minute speaking session here in Minneapolis, went out, kind of enjoy the city, get some walking in, really take in, Minneapolis a little bit more, came back, went to sleep. Now I'm back up, about to head to the airport and fly home. And I know for a lot of people, that is not a schedule or a pace that they want to move at. But for me, it's fine. Now, when I get home, what I will listen to is if my wife tells me, like, hey, we need to slow down a little bit, pump the brakes a little bit, then I'm going to listen. And so you do need to find where you are on that spectrum. And when you find out where you are on that spectrum of either not working very hard or procrastinating or overworking yourself, you need to find people in your life that you trust that can speak to you and give you honest feedback on, hey, you probably need to push a little harder, or hey, you need to slow down a little bit more. So thanks for tuning in.